Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cluster API Azure Office Hours. Cluster API and Cluster API provider Azure are both projects of the SIG Cluster Lifecycle Kubernetes subproject. Therefore, we try to adhere to their rules, which you can read about in our document, but basically they boil down to treat other people as you would like to be treated. And let's try and use the raise hand feature in Zoom so we don't talk over each other, although with just the 5 of us, it's probably not a big issue. Sorry, let me share screen. So there. At the beginning, we try and, well, if you want to add your name to the attendee list here, please do so. If anybody here is here for the first time and wants to say hello, I'll give a minute for you to identify yourself and tell us why you're here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danny Brito. I'm a software engineer, labor apprentice within the Microsoft option for infra team. And like the reason that I'm here today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Cluster API extension for Azure CLI. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming, Danny. Cool. So let's move on to open discussion. First thing, everybody is probably aware of this. I think everybody here had a big hand in it, actually. So pat yourself on the back. There's a new release, version 1.3.0. There's actually quite a few changes in here. I don't know, is there anything you want to highlight, Cecile?
No, nothing, thanks. Nothing about the content. I guess maybe we should talk about our trial to do a release cadence and deprecation of, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. What did we come up with in the Slack thread? It seemed like the consensus from elsewhere was just, yeah, we should do it more often. But do we get more concrete than that? Yeah,
so for now, I'm proposing that we try doing every 2 months. I feel like more than 2 months is too often. And 2 months might even be too much and we might decide to scale back a bit, but let's try this out. So I opened a new milestone for 1.4 and that is targeted for July 6th, since that's 2 months from the last release. And so in issues. Yeah.
Sorry, part of this is blocked by
date.
Zoom. There we go.
So we'll try to like put a due date every time we start a milestone before, like right after we cut a new release, we create the milestone for the next release. And we'll try to put the due date at that time. We decide when we're going to release the next one. And that gives people a good idea of when to expect the release. And we'll try to stick to that date as much as possible, except like any unforeseen, emergencies, like something breaks in the main branch right before, or if there's a security concern or anything like that. But otherwise, we're not going to wait for a feature or something like that. So let's try to stick to that. If you miss the release because you want to get a feature in and your feature doesn't get in, you can catch the next one. Hopefully they're regular enough that it's not too much of a pain. And then with that, in terms of like supporting previous releases or backporting to previous releases, we said, let's try to give each release a 4-month maintenance period for now, because we're a pretty small team and more would be too much overhead. So we'll try to have, right now we just released 1.3. So 1.3 and 1.2 are the 2 currently supported releases that we're backporting to if anything comes up as a bug. And then as soon as 1.4 gets released, 1.2 gets archived, and then we start maintaining 1.3 and 1.4. So n-1.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. That seems like probably all the bandwidth we have, maybe even more than we have, but let's try it.
Right. Yeah, and we're open to change if we realize this isn't the best strategy and we learn from trying this out. So this isn't set in stone or anything. We're just trying it. And if anyone has any feedback or comments or concerns about this approach, like please share on Slack. We're very open to criticism. So
Is that support policy documented anywhere?
great question. The only place it's documented right now is on Slack because we just came up with it with this release and are trying it out right now. I'm thinking maybe we like try it out for this release cycle, and then with the 1.4 release, we document it. So maybe I'll open an issue and put it in the milestone so it's there. And if we feel like it's working well enough, then we can document it. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Great, I'll do that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Cool. Any other questions about the new release plan, Cadence? So we want to, since we're intending to get back to our previous tradition of, wait, where'd it go? Sorry, I don't want to go through some random tabs. There we go. Do we want to go through the milestone review now or at the end, since we haven't been doing that, but we want to get back to it? Can we just fly over it right now since we have the page open, and then we can get on to the rest of the agenda? Let's try that.
Sure.
We don't need to go through each one, but do people have any status to report? I can tell you this one at the end is just basically waiting for some refinement on the E2E test. So probably we'll be able to merge it today or tomorrow, I'm guessing. Async managed clusters is a huge one that everybody's had eyes on. I think it's really close, right, Cecile?
Yeah, I got a few good comments yesterday, so I'm addressing those, but it's basically under review and just iterating until we get an approval.
Great. Anybody else want to volunteer status on any of these?
Yeah, I can add for the FlatCar support. So I think we're very close to getting this done. So there's one PR for the community galleries support, and once this is in, then yeah, the other PR with the template should be just promoted. Oh no, wait, actually not. So we're still working on getting the FlatCar images in the production gallery, like on the FlatCar side. So yeah, I don't know if this is how long it will take, but except that the rest is ready.
But this PR is on its own, it could merge without that, right? Or are they linked that way?
Well, so like the E2E tests require the images, which the idea was that they will be hosted in the FlatCar subscription and so on. But yeah, maybe I can talk about that in a minute, as I made a note in the agenda.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. If there's no other 1.4 milestone stuff, let's get back to where we were, which is right back to you, Matthias.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I thought if there is nothing on the agenda, then I can just let you know that I'm adding this community gallery support, which is new in Azure, which allows consuming the images from different tenants and subscriptions without going through the marketplace. So it's quite handy, and it's in the public preview right now. And yeah, this is the prerequisite for the FlatCar support. And yeah, we're working on getting the gallery, which will be shared in the FlatCar subscription. But I actually had this thought that maybe the reference images, which are now published in the marketplace, maybe they could be migrated to the community gallery as well, since the publishing process is much simpler. And yeah, just I didn't create any issue for it yet. I just wanted to know your thoughts about it.
I think that'd be great. You're blazing the trail that we kind of hope to follow in general. We restructured the marketplace offer just recently, and actually we haven't quite finished that, to stop using up too many SKUs and everything, but it's still just kind of a hacky workaround. So I don't know what other people think, but I think community gallery would be awesome in general, especially if the publishing process is simpler, like you said.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
So Cecile and I did some stuff in Image Builder a couple months ago, which I think is on a branch right now, to kind of build those and publish them to Marketplace. So might be able to leverage that to start that process as well. Oh yeah, sorry, it was to SIG. So I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it should be pretty close, I think.
Yeah, it's the same. So it's just that the SIG is shared. Like when you share the SIG, and so you're building pretty much to the SIG, and then you share the SIG, and you have like a special name which you need to refer to. Yeah, so if that would be like a viable option, then maybe Flatcar images can be pushed to the SIG instead of the Flatcar ones, like depending on the bandwidth and like who gets the one published faster. Sure.
I think my only concern would be the maturity of the feature. So I know it's still in preview right now. And last time I checked, you still needed to onboard both the consumer and the producer of the images. I believe that's not the case anymore, and you can just onboard the publisher. But if we still have to onboard like every subscription that needs to use it, that's not very good for like wider usage. And then also like I think it's still in preview, so it'd be nice to wait for GA before we start taking a real dependency on it. Maybe we can start testing it like in our end-to-end tests, like we're doing with Flatcar, and maybe adding one for Ubuntu just to scaffold it. But yeah, I'm not sure if we know the GA date publicly or not. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think it was very close, like June or July 1st. So yeah, not far. I will create an issue then to migrate those images.
David?
What do we think of just putting it behind a feature flag while it's in preview? Getting it out there so people can use it, but still having it behind a feature flag.
I mean, to me, it seems like so tiny that it doesn't need the feature gate, and also the work we're doing like changes the types a little bit, and I would encourage people to use that. So like there will be like instead of the shared gallery field, there will be the compute gallery, and this one will support both the plain SIGs and also the shared galleries. So yeah.
Cecile?
Matush, I'm curious, do you know what the backwards compatibility story is for existing, I guess for existing VMs, it doesn't matter because we build a new VM every time, but for existing skill sets, can you switch from marketplace image to community gallery, or is it like you have to create a new skill set and you can't switch from one to the other?
So I haven't tried the VM SS, but yeah, I can have a look. But I mean, if it just replaces the image reference, the ID, then I think it should be as any other like image change. But yeah, I can have a look into that. Good point.
Okay, they don't allow changing the offer for marketplace images, so that's why I'm like, you can't change from one marketplace image offer to another. You can only change SKUs and versions. So I'm not sure what the change is like between image types, but yeah, something else to look into. I think the biggest like work here would be us publishing and figuring out a publishing pipeline like that's maintainable over time, not really like people consuming it in CAPZ. That part would be pretty straightforward. We already have the support.
Yep. Cool. Any other questions or comments about community gallery? Should we move on to Danny's cool demo? Let's do. Danny, you want to show us the AZ Cappy?
Yes. Might actually, do you mind like going to the project?
Sure.
Yes. In the meantime, like unfortunately, I wasn't able to record a demo, so I'm just going to be talking to you a little bit about the project itself. So a little bit of background for the project is the cluster API extension for Azure CLI. Pretty much, it aims to help you create, develop, and maintain your Kubernetes clusters on Azure by leveraging the power of Cluster API. What it basically means is that it'll help you and guide you to creating workload clusters. We have some different commands that allows you to do so. So the main part of it will be to guide you through like the entire process of creating a workload cluster, and then afterwards, at first it'll help you out to identify any existing management cluster or create a new one. And then afterwards, it helps you out to just build workload clusters. And this is accomplished within the Azure CLI. Once again, it is an extension of it. So you'll be running AC Cappy, and also like you can run the help command just to get a more sense of like the entire capability of it. But like the main section is creating a workload cluster, and this is accomplished by AC Cappy create. Matthew, do you mind scrolling up a little bit so you can show a little bit of the demo? So what this command pretty much do is it guides you through like deciding and figuring out to see if you have like already like a Kubernetes cluster, and to see if you have like the Cluster API provided components installed. And if you don't, it'll help you to just installing them and ask you like, it'll just make sure that you're aware of like what is going on with the process, and if you're missing something, it'll help you just create it or just install it. So you can go through the process of generating like the templates as well, and then just creating your workload cluster. That's currently the big status of the project. What we're trying to, or kind of like milestones for the project will be like, besides just helping out create these templates, but different options that we have for the project, it will be like also allowing you as a user bring you custom templates for the workload cluster. Pretty much allowing you to bring this, and it will help you to run down the process by creating the management cluster and the workload clusters based on the specifications that you have provided. The other different milestones that we have are like allowing you to probably cache the artifacts locally, so you don't have to retrieve them every single time. And like we're also looking for the integration of Azure workload identities to bring up like just simplifies the requirements, pre-requirements of like the different variables that you need. And finally, we're looking and exploring to bring the integration of cluster classes integration into the project with the hopefully with the future soon adoption of it. That's kind of like the overall of the project. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
I've also got, pardon me, I've also got it installed locally. I could, just run a few commands and stuff just to show people what we're talking about rather than. Would that help to ground things? Let me do that real quick. Just.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having some problems with Zoom. I couldn't run it.
No worries. Why is it not show? Oh, there, terminal. So this is just inside the CLI extension. And then you have to activate a Python virtual environment to dev with it. And then you have AZ Cappy. Okay, so Python takes a little while. There we go.
Cool. And as I was mentioning, this like tells you a little bit of what the capability of the extension is. And as you can see, like you are able to create a workload cluster, delete it, or just have some information about it. So like the main section of or main command would be ACCAPI create. That I don't know, Matt, can you just show the help? Yeah, thank you so much. So been working, this allows you to give you the flexibility to specify the different components that you might need or the specifications for your cluster itself. Like as you see, like we have the control plane machine counts and different types of it. So it is really flexible in the sense of like you can specify it, but we also have seen the need of also different users to bring their own templates. So that's kind of like one of the features or milestones that we're working on. So pretty much what it means, like you will be able to assign or direct to like a URL or for your custom templates or like a local file. And then that this command will help you and guide you through building that workload cluster. And also like one of the current methods, I'm sorry, I just forgot. I've been working on like in the integration of a pivot method or option. What it pretty much we've seen like some user requirement or the utilization of cluster API for creating a cluster is creating a management cluster, but sometimes they don't necessarily need the managed cluster to be permanent. So we just do our pivot that we essentially start leveraging the Power Cluster CTL and its move capability to move like the cluster workload objects into your final workload cluster.
I switched to the pivot branch there so we can see the flag. It's not merged yet, but probably soon.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Just for retrospective, because maybe some people have seen this before. I demoed a much earlier version of this like over a year ago, and I think it's super useful because essentially the main value I see it is it does all the fiddly stuff in the quick start for you without you having to worry about where do I download kind from, where do I get all these things, what environment variables do I set, and so that's a big value. But we've heard a lot of mostly internal Azure teams asking for basically a replacement for AKS Engine. They want like a fire and forget tool. They don't want to understand CAPI. They don't care about management clusters. They just want what we consider best practices, generate a workload cluster, and then they're going to test their stuff on that. So what Danny's been doing is really oriented towards streamlining this around that workflow. And Pivot isn't the default, but it might be at some point because really what they want is, even if it takes 10 or 15 minutes, they just want a workload cluster and management cluster can disappear. So all the options will still be there, but we're trying to focus the happy path on acting kind of like AKS Engine at this point. Are there any questions for Danny, David?
Yeah, I have two pieces of feedback. One actually a question and feedback. So this is really cool and it makes it so much easier. So much so that it would be really neat if it was part of the quick start itself. So have we evaluated the idea of our quick start documentation being less about all the intrinsics of building cluster API and more about, hey, you can use this tool to get you started quickly. And then, a more in-depth view of, hey, you can go and build all this stuff yourself and put all the pieces together. And that's more of the advanced startup as opposed to this is the easy path. Especially for new folks, this is probably much easier to grok than, for example, putting all of the pieces together yourself. That's question one. Feedback, possibly. I wonder if we could run like locally, like a really small K3S or something like that, and skip over setting up an entire cluster locally and figuring out how to, maybe skip over the bootstrap side and just run this stuff quickly, target the building the cluster as opposed to building a local cluster and then building another one abroad and then pivoting to reduce the impact of two cluster deployments. Just curious if folks have been thinking about stuff like that.
Yes, I'm sorry, I might have been a little bit nervous, might have skipped over one of the steps. And actually, we are actively also looking on K3DS to see if it's a viable option. We are like still debating if it should be like an additional option, or instead of being the replacement of currently we're using Kind as our temporary bootstrap cluster, to be more specific for the management one side of it. So we've just been exploring those options as well.
And as far as the quick start, I think that'd be great. I think once this is maybe just a little more mature and we're confident it can handle all versions of the happy path, then I think, yeah, with the first thing in our quick start for Azure maybe should be, hey, just go use this tool. But if you really want to know what's going on, you can do it the hard way. Yeah, I think it's a great idea, David. Cecile.
My team had a question in chat. Maybe we can answer that
I'm
first.
sorry.
And I'll go next.
Chat window.
How can pivoted clusters be deleted without the management cluster? Can it somehow delete itself? Should it be, if it's fire and forget, it should also be contributed to clean up? I think that's a question for Danny.
Right. Yeah, actually, we just been working on this. We have encountered this issue. So like, in terms of like best standards, what we looking for, like just deleting a pivot cluster will be just itself will be to go through having another pivot. So like essentially your self-managed cluster, you'll have to pivot into like a temporal cluster, and then afterwards delete that cluster, but then by running the command on the management cluster to do so, and then afterwards to get rid of that management cluster. But we're seeing like as we are also like working directly with the Azure CLI, probably or direct path might be to just directly delete the components on the resource group itself to instead of giving you through the entire process of like essentially doing another pivot.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking that maybe just the resource group for this cluster can be just dropped and hopefully everything is cleaned up. Yeah, thank you.
Cecile?
Yeah, my question was, I see that there's been lots of improvements lately, and the last release, like if I download CAPI CLI or the CAPI extension right now, I get a release from over, I think, a year ago. So what are the plans around releasing a new version?
Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, no, what we have in perspective would be like, as it was mentioned, just to have a little bit more maturity, and then so hopefully we can have the release as soon as possible. Yeah, so we probably you can like the users can have like the new user experience that we've been working on and like the features that we've been working on.
We might want to consider doing a release as soon as we can justify it, because now that I think about it, we found that one bug. So I'm pretty sure if you install it on top of the current version of AZ CLI, there's some exception that gets thrown that we weren't expecting because the CLI itself has changed quite a bit. You know, you remember that one? So we might want to, because it may be the case that the 003 extension actually is missing, has some bugs as a result of that. So we can talk about it, but maybe we should do a release soon, just so people can try it out.
Is there a way to like install like a branch or something? Like can I install it from master as like or in the main branch for to just try out like a preview? Because I think you were adding like a URL or something.
Yeah, just follow the developer instructions. It's
Okay.
pretty straightforward, I think.
Cool. Yeah, that being able to install from a predefined template is going to be super useful for the Windows folks. We have a lot of people trying to try out a component on Windows, and they don't necessarily care about all of the kind and cluster and everything. So really looking forward to that particular feature. Nice work.
We need to do more testing on Windows. So you may
Yeah,
encounter some bugs.
From a Windows perspective, I mean, running it on WSL will be fine.
Oh, okay.
I think it'll that's probably from a development perspective. And the other position people will be using it is in CI development flows, and so they'll be able to run that on a Linux machine from there.
It is intended to work on Windows as well, and all the handlers expect that, but we just haven't actually tested it in a while. I mean, rather than WSL. Awesome. Thanks, Danny. Any other questions about EasyCappy or anything else? Do we have anything else on the agenda? Sorry, I stopped sharing. Looks like we're at the end. Cool. Well, if no one else has anything to add, I guess we can call it a day for a couple of weeks. Anybody going to KubeCon? Guess not. So sad. Oh, well. All right. Do you have what, Cecile? You gonna say something?
I was just like, next one.
Yeah. All right. Later, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.